Hey guys, welcome to Rosie's Dessert Spot. In this episode I'll be teaching you how to make this stenciled buttercream cake. I'll be using a black forest cake recipe for this. So I've got all my dry ingredients and I'm blending that together with a teaspoon just to make sure that my baking soda is evenly distributed. Set that aside and start on your wet ingredients. So I've got my butter, it's nice and soft in my standing mixer for about a minute or two, and I'm gradually adding in my caster sugar. You're going to beat that for a couple of minutes longer, scrape down the sides as you need till it's nice and fluffy, and then add in your vanilla extract. Once that's nice and incorporated, I'm going to add in my eggs one by one, and I'll make sure not to add my next egg until the previous egg has been fully incorporated. And once that's nice and combined, add in your ingredients alternating. So you start off with your drying, add a third of it, then add in your sour cream and your milk, back to your dry, some more sour cream, some more milk, and then finish off with the rest of your dry ingredients. This can get messy. And then just blend that on low speed until it's all combined. Don't overdo it, otherwise you'll beat out that air and you won't get a nice fluffy cake. So just until it's mixed. Then separate those into your two 6-inch cake tins. Give them a bit of a tap on the counter to flatten those out, and then bake them in a preheated 180 degrees Celsius oven. Mine took about an hour and 10 minutes to cook. Then I'm going to make my sugar syrup. So I've got my sugar and my water over some medium heat, and I'm going to dissolve my sugar in my water, just kind of stirring it with a spoon. Let that come to a boil, and I let it boil for about 5 minutes, and then I turn off the heat, and then add in my vanilla extract, or you could use some liqueur, whatever sort of flavoring you like. And next we'll get started on our cherries. I've got some Pip-less cherries here. Add it in my sugar, and I'm going to stir that on medium heat and then cook those for a good 10 minutes. I'm stirring occasionally as well. We want all those juices extracted, and the heat will do that for us. Then when it darkens slightly and it's nice and cooked, I'll add in my corn flour. Corn flour is a thickener, so when you add it and you stir it in vigorously, after a couple of minutes on the heat, it starts to thicken up into a beautiful sauce. And that's what we have here. Then I let that cook for another 2 minutes, and then I'll set that aside to cool down completely. Got my cakes that have been sitting in the freezer for a little bit too long. I'm just sawing away at that to cut off the top, creating a line around the outside so I can guide my knife, and I rotate the knife through the cake to make it nice and even. I got my cream going, got some cream, sugar, and some vanilla extract, and again I'll have all this in the description box below, all the measurements and the recipes. I got my buttercream, which I coloured black with some Americolour gel food colour. I used a good bottle of it to create that really dark kind of black buttercream. Then I brush on my sugar syrup, and then create a dam of buttercream around the outside of my cake. Reason being is because now we're going to add in our cream. That's a very soft filling, so under the weight of the cake it's going to be pushed out towards the sides, and so you want a dam at the very edge of your cake to make sure that your cake doesn't fall apart. So do the same again, add on your sugar syrup to make your cake nice and moist. Pipe on your barrier, cream filling, and then your beautiful cherries right in the center. Continue building that cake until you've finished off all the layers, and then I'm scraping down anything else that's kind of sticking on the outside. I'm going to pop that into the freezer for about 15 minutes. That way when I add my crumb coat, the layers of the cakes won't go kind of sliding around because it's all set and the buttercream has really made it stable, so it's a lot easier if you just put it in the freezer. And then put a thin layer of frosting around the whole outside of your cake. This will create like a kind of trap all the crumbs into that frosting so that you don't get any in the final layer. And here's our final layer. That's been in the freezer again for a good 10 minutes. And then that nice healthy dollop on top. Flatten out the top with your spatula, and then add a generous amount onto the sides of your cake. Just building on that buttercream. And then we'll use a bench scraper to scrape off all the excess. It's at a 90-degree angle, so it's nice and tall and straight up the cake. And I'm not adding a lot of pressure, I'm just sort of rotating the cake and slowly taking off the excess. If there's any sections where buttercream is missing, fill those in and continue to scrape down the sides. Then bring that extra lip of frosting to the center of the cake and flatten out your cake again. And I run my bench scraper under some hot water and I'm slowly going around the cake to smooth it all off completely. Now my cake was beautifully smooth at this stage, but I continued this for another 10 minutes and I completely destroyed the sides of my cake. I think it's important to tell you guys that you know not to do the same mistake, and you'll see at the end of the video just how messy the sides look when you overdo it. Then I'm holding my stencil to my buttercream cake and I'm adding white buttercream into the center with my spatula. That way the stencil is held down to the cake and I can kind of move my hand around to flatten out the rest of it. And then smooth off your buttercream. I'm using a bit of that stencil that I cut off to kind of smooth it off nice and rounded. And then using my airbrush, just going around the top, adding a healthy saturated sort of concentrated color right at the top. And then as you go down the cake, you create a bit of a lighter shade so you don't go over it as much. Then I directly changed the colors, didn't wash out the gun or anything, just put yellow directly in there and went over halfway on the red and then completely in the center. Then went in with my blue to create a green, and then at the very bottom just added in my purple. It's very, very easy to do. Then gently remove your stencil from the cake, and there you have it, your finished product. Taking my scalpel tool and just removing any white kind of stray buttercream that got underneath the stencil. And that's a very easy cleanup job as well. Just kind of going in sideways and removing that excess. And you're done. That's how you make a pretty simple buttercream decoration on your buttercream cakes using a stencil and an airbrush. And if you don't have an airbrush, you could always just paint over it, maybe with some gold paint if you don't want to use the colors. Could always use the dust as well, colored dust to help create that rainbow effect. Personally, I prefer doing stenciling work with fondant or on top of fondant using buttercream. I think fondant is a lot easier because you can always stick your stencil to the fondant with a little bit of shortening, or if you hit it with a steamer. I keep saying hit it, I mean just steaming the outside of your cake to make it nice and tacky so that your stencil will stick. Had you done this on a white buttercream cake, you would not see that extra white lining. Because it's black and the buttercream was white, you will see all that extra detail along the edges of your stencil. Had it been white though, wouldn't have had any problems. It was just a bad decision by me to use black. I just thought the colors would pop really well, but anyway, it still looks kind of cool. I'm pretty happy with it. But yeah, that was a tutorial for this Tuesday. Thanks guys for watching, and I will catch you next time. If you like, you can subscribe to my channel. I upload a new video every Tuesday and Saturday.